Hey, I'd like to set up your investigation of cultural wealth by sharing a few context ideas. First of all, Yosso is a local UC Riverside scholar who's developed a theoretical framework called cultural wealth that explores how oppressed people actually have agency and strengths that can build our community and our schools and their own lives up, but that how those skills and abilities, those forms of cultural capital and wealth, are undercut by a deficit ideology in American culture. So I want to take a minute to remind you about what we've learned about agency and oppressed peoples. I want to talk to you, remind you about what we talked about deficit ideology. And then I'll briefly introduce cultural wealth, but I'll let the written lecture kind of speak for itself there. So, if you recall, when we started the class talking about agency, we read that Thought Co article, and it talked about how everyone has some agency. Even the most oppressed, marginalized, impoverished people can assert their dignity and agency in various ways in their lives. And so that is an important starting point for this. Because if we just imagine people who are dealing with various forms of cultural oppression, whether it's racism, gender oppression, economic oppression, if we just imagine them as victims, we're missing the empowering skills and abilities they're cultivating through their process of overcoming these obstacles, of resisting what sociologists call structures of inequality. So, what Yosso wants to say is look, for a long time, the American school system has looked at children like Latino children of immigrants or African American students or other marginalized immigrant and cultural groups as a problem in the schools. The focus has been on what these students do not have, what they lack, what their deficits are. And because of that focus, what happens is we miss out on the many different forms of wealth and strength and character that students from groups like Latino groups or African American or other economically and racially or culturally marginalized groups bring into the classroom. A great example of this is the story of Reina Grande when she tried to participate in that story contest back when she was in elementary school. When she turned in her story, it was basically tossed because it wasn't in English. So for Grande's school system and her teachers, Grande was a problem because she was defined by her lack of English skills. The focus was on her deficit, her lack of conformity to the expectations of the majority culture. And what was missed was the extraordinary linguistic capital she had, having grown up in a country where she learned another language. Instead of seeing an incredible opportunity to develop two or even three languages, when we think of Spanglish as a hybrid, Reina was seen as a deficit, as a problem, and her work was dismissed as something we couldn't even consider because it was in Spanish. Why not instead say, look at the linguistic capital our immigrant students come with. Let's celebrate the stories they write in their own language. Let's honor that and bring in translators to share it with their classmates, and let's then help those students bridge to develop the English skills they want to function at a high level in American culture. So rather than seeing immigrant students who don't speak English yet as a deficit, as a problem, we can see that they have a cultural wealth of linguistic capital that we can build on. That is the big shift that Yosso is arguing in her paradigm of social wealth. And so in the lecture, I'm going to ask you to look at how Yosso defines cultural wealth and the different forms of cultural wealth she envisions. Okay? And let me see. There we go. So those are the 6 different kinds of cultural capital, cultural wealth that that Yosso sees that are uniquely powerful in the lives of marginalized, oppressed, or systemically imposed upon and unequal structures folks from those environments. So This is where she's going, and I want you, as you read the summary that I have of her article, it's a long summary, but it is much shorter than the article. I want you to make sure you understand each of these different 6 techniques. And the question afterwards is basically to take one of these, I shouldn't say techniques, one of these forms of cultural wealth and define it, and then talk about where we see it in Reina Grande's memoir. So I hope this little intro helps you get started. I look forward to seeing you make the important connections here.